Hey guys, Analog Man here for another late night deck profile. And as you can see from the title of the video, we are doing D-Reaper finally. My locals actually managed to get the set early, only one day early. As of recording, it's basically one day before the release on Friday, Thursday. So we managed to get the set, and we're basically building the deck. I managed to build this out of two boxes. So for anybody that wants to build this deck, you only need about one box. If you're going in with your friends, have each one of your friends buy a box, and you should be able to get enough of the cards for D-Reaper, because D-Reaper is super cheap too. Almost every card in this deck is less than $1, even less. The Reaper might be a little bit, maybe like $2-3, but aside from that, it's super dirt cheap. The rest of the decks are way more expensive, but I feel like they're not as powerful as this. So I went with this one, honestly. But yeah, let's get into the deck profile so I can show you how busted this deck is. So let's start with the eggs. The most crucial thing of this deck, actually, surprisingly, it is 4 Mother D Reapers. This card is really gross. The fact that it's an egg actually makes it even more powerful. So for those that do not know what this does, so it has 3 different effects so far. So first one is all turns. This Digimon can't attack and isn't affected by your opponent's effects. So I actually asked around about this effect because I was not 100% sure about how it works. But essentially what happens is that basically nothing can touch this or remove sources or anything from this. It can only be affected by battle. So Blue Hybrid cannot remove any sources from this because it counts as one of your opponent's effects. It specifies your opponent's effects. So that means if they play a Tamer and try to strip it, like play Tommy to strip this, or try to use, let's say, Kumamon to remove a source, it will not affect it whatsoever. It will keep its sources no matter what. The only way to kill it is to swing over the 15,000 boost that it has. So this card is really strong against Blue Hybrid and a lot of like decks that just cannot get over 15,000. So uh, I'm honestly expecting Red, maybe Black War Greymon to be able to get over this, but most decks it's going to be really hard to do that. Maybe Gallantmon, maybe, depends. But yeah. Then the other effect is on your main phase, once per turn, if you don't have another Mother D-Reaper in play, and by in play it means here in the battle area. In Raising, you can have another one, but you don't have to push it out, basically. Uh, you get to place one of your ADR-02 Searchers from the battle zone or in your hand underneath this as its source, its Digivolution card. And then once per turn, basically whenever you may play a D-Reaper, it will reduce the cost depending on how many sources it has underneath. So the more you equip onto this, the cheaper everything in your deck will become. So this card not only makes things cheaper, it also lets you equip once per turn, and it can't be affected, so nothing can touch it. So you can just have it kind of sit out on the field and chill and just kind of absorb more and more of the card, and then eventually you can summon out your Reaper and punch for game, basically. But yeah, you have to run 4. Do not run any other egg because this deck only focuses on D-Reaper, so any other egg will basically just screw up everything, so just keep this at 4. But yeah, that's all the eggs. Let's get into there aren't really levels, so I can't really say we're getting into the level 3 rookies. Let's get into the 0-1 Searcher. Let's go with that. Yeah. So for the 0-1 Searcher, originally I was running 15, but I barely saw the card because I just never saw it. It was weird. So I bumped it up to 20 ADR-01 Searchers. I honestly believe 20 is the best number. I've seen some builds in Japan and Asia in general running 25, but I feel 20 is enough so that you can fit in other cards that help you basically search. There are only 2 cards in this deck that search, and I'm already running them at maximum, and I barely see them sometimes, so having this at 20 helps you kind of like thin it out, but this is your main draw engine, because as for anyone that doesn't know, the ADR-02 Searcher. Basically, when there's no other searcher on the field, you can play this, and it'll only cost 1 because it'll reduce itself by 2. When you play another one, it will go by its full cost if another one is on the field, so you can't like stack them unless you have your Mother Reaper. And then on your turn, this guy can't attack either, but on play, you get to draw a card. So you can basically, if you have 3 of these underneath your Mother Reaper, this thing becomes 0 cost by default. So you just keep playing multiples until you search out everything that you need in your deck, which is really busted because if your whole hand is just searchers, you just keep drawing and just keep going basically. So it's really powerful. But yeah, we're running 20 of him because he is basically the main draw engine of the deck. So you need to see him as often as possible. And of course, you need to equip as many as possible on underneath this, at least 7 by your 7th turn, so that way you can, you know, swing in with Reaper and go for game. That's all for the ADR-02s. Let's get into the other ones. So we're playing, of course, 4 ADR-01 Jerry's. Jerry is really cool. Basically, it's a 5 cost, but with how the deck works, you can reduce it down to maybe like a 1 cost, maybe a 0 cost by turn 3 or 4. So it's really powerful. Basically, what it does is that on your main phase, you can tap this to reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, and you can equip 1 Searcher onto your Mother Reaper. So you basically just have her set up stuff, and she doesn't really do much aside from that. So you can basically just kind of let her die after that first time, and if she doesn't die, you basically just get to keep doing it and equipping more. So really powerful, and it is technically a Searcher in the deck in a way. So I like to run 4 copies of it. Then we run 4 of the 03 Pendulum Feet. This guy is also really crucial. You have to run this at 4. I do not recommend running this at any number lower than 4 because on play you can reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and you can add 1 card with D-Reaper and 1 02 Searcher to your hand and then bottom deck the rest. I originally thought this only added 1 D-Reaper card, but I reread it and it actually lets you grab 1 D-Reaper card, basically any card in his deck at this point, and then 1 Searcher, so you're getting 2 cards out of this. So this guy is super crucial. You need this guy. He's basically kind of like the Pokemon of the deck. He's even 3 cost too. So yeah, he's just basically Pokemon for the deck. Then we run 204 bubbles. I'm thinking of bumping this card up to 3. But I like it kind of at 2, but I feel like sometimes you kind of want to see this more often, so I might bump this up to 3. Bubbles, what he does is he's a security Digimon, so when you hit it in security, you get to just play a Searcher underneath your Mother Reaper, and then on play, you can also place 1 of your Searchers from either the field or in hand as well. So this thing basically does the same exact effect if it's hidden security as it does if you play it on the field. So really cool, really good card too. Then we run 205 Creep Hands. Creep Hand is basically just a blocker. That's it. That's all he does. But he's a 5 cost, but you can reduce it down to like a 1 cost. So you can pass it over for 1. Really awesome card. Then we run 4 Pallet's Head. This guy is kind of weird, but you can reduce his cost down to almost 0, maybe 3. So the cool thing is that when you tap him, you get to basically pop anything on your opponent's board with DP equal to him. And as you can see, he's only 3,000. But the cool thing is that as you equip more Searchers underneath the Mother Reaper, each one of your D-Reaper cards on your turn gains 1,000. So you can boost this guy up to 10,000 and just pop almost anything on their board. You might not be able to pop their level 6, but you can pop all their other small stuff. So if you manage to get like 6 of these underneath Mother Reaper, you can play like 2 of these for 0 cost and just pop 2 things on their board. So really powerful card. And then we also run, oh, there's a glare here. We run 4 Gatekeeper. This card is actually honestly one of the most broken cards from the set because it can go into any other deck or any other security deck. I've seen actually Yellow Hybrid playing it. I've seen Security Control playing this because they just run the Mother Reaper as an egg, and then this is super live then at that point because in security you get to play this and then you basically end the battle immediately. The Digimon that swings into this does not die. It just automatically plays itself. And then on play, you get to do recovery +1. And then if your Reaper has more than 6 sources, you get a -1 security on everything on your opponent's turn, and only your opponent's turn. Not on your so basically just on your opponent's turn, they get -1 security. So if you manage to stack 2 of these, they basically can't swing for game like at all. So this card's really crucial. You also need to run 4 copies. Then for the last Digimon, technically, of this deck, you run 3 Reapers. the main boss of the deck and the main OTK of the deck. He is 20 cost, as you can see, but his effect makes him 0 because when you would play this Digimon, you may trash 7 cards, um, 7 or more Digivolution cards from the bottom of one of your Mother Reapers, and then you basically get to play this for 0 cost. It has Rush, and then when attacking, you basically get to equip 2 02 Searchers onto it, and then you get to untap this card. And the cool thing is that as you equip, he gets stronger and stronger. By the time you finish using up the 7 that you just detached, he's going to be 23,000. So your opponent basically can't really do much against it because even on their turn, even if it's tapped, it's a 15,000 OTK machine. And usually you save this for at the very end when you can swing for game, because by that point your board should be swarmed with at least like maybe 10 hits at that point. So you just swing in for 4 hits and then you just swing 2 guys, maybe a Jerry, maybe a Bubbles, and then you basically win for game. But yeah, that's all the Digimon in this deck. We run a lot. We run 20, 24, 28, 30, 32, 36, 40, and then 43 Digimon in this deck. We barely run any options, which is kind of weird because I normally focus on security control kind of decks. But this deck is kind of a control deck, so it's pretty busted regardless. We run very few options. I only run actually 3 options. I run 2 Wyvern's Breath, to get rid of certain things, and then I run 1 Reinforcing to basically kind of boost myself for next turn. That's all the options we run. And then for Tamers, we only run 4. We run the 2 TK Sankari to boost your memory if they decide to start swinging. And then 4 Karis because you will be healing a lot with Gatekeeper. So you basically just do activate Kari and gain an extra memory. And of course, she sets you to 3, so really powerful. But yeah, that's the whole deck so far. And so far in testing, I've managed to test it against 3 different decks. I've tested it against Imperial, I've tested it against Black War Greymon, and I've tested it against uh, Yellow Cherubimon, surprisingly. So cool thing. Yep. So against Imperial, if they can't outspeed you fast enough, they basically lose. Uh, because you set up the Mother Reaper so fast, even if they go first, they're passing memory to you. So you're basically just going like, oh, Mother Reaper, then you play for 1, and you're passing them for 1, so they really can't do much. Then you just basically keep equipping and playing stuff for free, and then eventually you go into a Pallet's Head, and then you pop all their level 4s, and they can't really do anything. So it's really strong against Imperial because Imperial has to outspeed it, and if it doesn't, they basically lose their board, just like against Security Control. Then against Black War Greymon, it doesn't really do enough because you already swarm the board fast enough. So basically, they can't kill your whole board ever, and you don't even run enough Tamers to make it worth it for them to actually pop the Tamers. Because even if you lose a Tamer, they're still passing you like 3 or 2, and this deck can operate with like 3 or 2 memory. It's basically like a green deck, but it's white, so it's really gross. And then against Yellow Cherubi, they do set up a bit slow, which is really unfortunate. I honestly, shout out to my friend Pablo, who I was playtesting with. I love Yellow Cherubi. I really love that deck when it was out. I love that it was one of the counters to Blue Hybrid, but against Reaper, it just has kind of a tough time if you don't swing fast enough. I noticed. That's mainly the only issue. Aside from that the deck is still really solid. It's just Reaper kind of makes things really annoying. That's the best way to sum up this deck. It's very annoying. I feel like against Security Control, it's kind of a hit or miss because the thing is that both decks are healing, but at the same time, this deck needs to search more compared to Security Control, and Security Control can kind of recycle more. So I feel like it's kind of a 50-50 match. It just depends on if you can get your Reaper in time to kind of swing. But even then, it has to basically the only way to kill this thing is if it hits a Wyvern's Breath. So if you let your opponent kind of set up, you're basically kind of screwed at that point. So it's really rough, honestly. Security Control, it's I honestly, now that I think about it, I would honestly give it a 60-40 chance against this. This has a really high chance to beat it, but if Security Control manages to set up and heal enough, potentially it can survive, but that's only if it can do that. But yeah. Um, Against, let's say, yellow hybrid, I feel yellow hybrid is really good against it, mainly because of Rapidmon. But even with Rapidmon, you have to time it properly because if you don't get rid of enough of their searchers, you basically lose the game. And by the time you do stuff, you basically can't. You have to set up faster, as I said. But yellow is also just as slow, so it's kind of a hit or miss. Honestly, it's just depending on what you set up fast enough. Um, any other meta decks? Let's see, maybe yeah, I think I've covered all the meta decks. Yeah, all the meta decks. It has a really rough time. But against EX02, I'm not sure yet. It might still require a little bit more testing, but I feel it has a very good matchup against Justimon. It has a very good matchup against Gallant. Against Beelsmon, it's also a really good matchup because it only pops certain things, and your highest cost normally is Mother Reaper, so it doesn't really do enough. And then Mega Gargomon, for green, it's good, but its effects don't really do anything to Mother Reaper. So as long as you maintain a board of like maybe 2 to 3 searchers, you're basically golden. But yeah, aside from that, this deck is really powerful, really solid, and as I usually say, this is a template for you to take from. You can modify however you want. The only thing that I highly say that you cannot change is the searchers and the amount of those other searchers, the pendulum feet and the Jerry's. You want to keep those at 4 no matter what, because they will be the ones that help you search your deck. And then same with the searchers, you want to have at least 20. Some builds I saw in Japan ran 15, but I did not see a single one. I bricked so many times with that, so I recommend just running 20 for your deck and just keeping it there, and you should be good. Aside from that, that's about it. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the deck and how gross it is, honestly. Because even me playing it, I feel dirty playing this deck. It's just really nasty. It's like playing security control, but even worse because I don't need the options in this case. I just keep searching my deck nonstop until I kill them for game. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time in the next deck profile.